I'm Eddie Muller. This week, Noir Alley goes uptown to rub shoulders with the swells in some of New York's swankiest concert halls. The picture is Deception, made at Warner Brothers in 1946 as a vehicle for its three stars, Bette Davis, Claude Rains, and Paul Henreid. It's sort of a noir-stained remodel of 1942's Now Voyager, made by the same director, Irving Rapper. Well, Bette Davis isn't going to be making too many appearances in Noir Alley, even though, in my estimation, she had the perfect look for it. When Bette Davis gets a close-up and her character has devious machinations in mind, there is no more sinister face in all of cinema. But Bette Davis didn't do films that were genuinely noir. That's because as the queen of Warner Brothers, she made prestige pictures, not crime movies. In noir, women were as tight-lipped and hard-boiled as the men. But at Warner's, she had writers working overtime to assure the abundance of dialogue that would satisfy her ardent fans. In this film, Paul Henreid stays relatively taciturn, while Davis and Claude Rains enact a war of florid words. If you're a fan of lush language, slyly delivered and dripping with spite and malice, stick around. This story had been told on screen before in the 1929 film Jealousy, starring Gene Eagles. The two most noir films Bette Davis ever did, this and 1940's The Letter, had both been made previously by Davis's idol, Gene Eagles. When Warner Brothers bought the play, however, it had a notion to cast Barbara Stanwyck opposite Henreid. That didn't work out, however, and neither did the original title, since Republic had just released a picture called Jealousy. When Davis came aboard, reuniting with her Now Voyager co-stars, the title was changed to Her Conscience, which the actress 86'd as too soapy and melodramatic. While this being the midst of the noir era, the title was switched to something punchier and more provocative, Deception. Also new to this version of the story is the musical backdrop. Henreid plays a European cellist who comes to New York with dim hopes of finding the American lover he was separated from in the war. Davis, of course. Their miraculous reunion turns sour when he suspects she's the mistress of world-renowned composer and conductor Alexander Hellenius, played by Claude Rains with a haughty and devilish arrogance that makes Cate Blanchett's Lydia Tarr seem like a kitten in comparison. That's not a bad comparison, actually, since Deception deals with many of the same themes as Tar: power, art, and manipulation. All three actors trained to believably play their instruments: the piano for Davis and Rains, and for Henreid, the cello. There's a fascinating tidbit about how his scenes were created, but I'm saving that for later. The real magic here is the score by Erich Wolfgang Korngold, who also composed the cello concerto credited to Alex Hellenius and played by Henreid's character, Karel Novak. The Austrian-born Korngold was a child prodigy who became one of the world's finest classical composers of the early 20th century. When he fled Europe to escape the Nazis, Warner Brothers signed him to an exclusive contract. His scores for A Midsummer Night's Dream, Captain Blood, The Adventures of Robin Hood, and many others revolutionized film scoring. Now, I have read reviews that disparage this film because, quote, none of the characters are likable. Well, that shouldn't be a problem in Noir Alley. Personally, I love this film for its verve and venom and glorious production design. The direction, lighting, editing, music, and of course, the acting represent factory filmmaking at its zenith. Here is Deception.